I know people would be upset if we made the service too short, right? Right. Good. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom at home as well. We're glad that you're with us this evening. We hope that you'll join us as we welcome Shabbat together. We'll turn to page 121 in the blue-bound book called Mishkan Tefillah in the seat pocket in front of you. Page 121 as we prepare to welcome Shabbat. We'll kindle in just a moment the Sabbath lights. As we say, O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Join us, please, on page 120 as we kindle our lights.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Join us, please, as we turn to page 123, and we'll ask you, please, in body or in spirit, to rise for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Shabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. And please be seated. Please be seated. Bottom of page 127 as we continue. And let's pray together. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. Page 128, as we continue with the singing of Hine Matovu Manayim, how good and how pleasant it is that brothers and sisters, that siblings all dwell together. We began services, just before we began services, people had a chance to greet one another. Hopefully you had a chance to greet one another on Zoom as well. And this is our time for greeting the Sabbath bride as we welcome her and we open our hearts and we open our prayer selves to greeting the Sabbath bride. We'll turn to page 138. We sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, and at verse 9, it is our custom in body or in spirit to rise and to turn toward the door of entry here or wherever, or from wherever you are joining us, and to, with our fullness, with our bodies, also greet her. Page 138. Please be seated. Just before we prepare to sing the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144, we share these words by saying entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברכותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו.
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה.
בריחו.
לעילמים כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא ויאמרו.
Amen. Page 146, we'll continue as we rise for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu. We say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'divaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitfuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim b'mishmarotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, b'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi layla, Umavdil ben yom uvein laila Adonai tsevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Let's continue responsively. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai.
And please be seated as we continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בעם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. ונאמר כי יפדה אדוני את יעקב גאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל Yisrael. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Join us, please, for Hashki Venu.
Shelter of your peace over us.
Ata Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Join us, please, as we continue with the singing of Yismechu, which can be found on page 162. If you haven't found your space, your place of joy yet, this is your moment. We're supposed to delight in Shabbat, even to set aside those things that are troubling us, that are paining us, if we can, just for a moment, just for a few moments of Shabbat, and to be in the moment of delight and Sabbath. You can't not feel joy, right? You just even in that moment, from wherever we each come. So we move, it is a complex composition, our Shabbat worship. We move from welcome and welcoming each other and welcoming the Sabbath to delight, to thanksgiving. And that is the place in which we find ourselves now as we turn to the tefillah, to the core of our worship, where we give thanks. We give thanks for the generations before us. We give thanks for strength enough. We give thanks for all the wonders of the world. We were talking just before we started. We give thanks for journeys that take us up to high places and bring us safely back with loved ones, whether hiking or emotionally or spiritually. We give thanks, and that is so much a part of what we do when we turn to the words of the tefillah, which can be found beginning on page 164, and for which we'll ask you, please, in body or in spirit, to join us as we rise for the tefillah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה Adonai, האל הקדוש. And please be seated. Page 173, the top of the page is where we'll continue to pray together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ratzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel, u'tehila ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai she'otcha levadcha be'yira na'avod. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and for so much more, we offer our thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. We continue with Shalom Rav, which can be found at the top of page 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom ra'av al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom ra'av al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We'll take a few moments now in intentional silence, in meditation, in prayer.
Ose shalom, bimroma. Ose shalom, bimroma. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May we all bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Bimroma. Oh, say shalom. Bimroma. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Uyase, uyase, uyase shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May each of us bring peace down, bring peace down. May each of us bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Bimroma. Oh, say shalom. Bimroma.
It is a version of O Say Shalom that gives me shivers every time I hear it. I see some nods as well. And I think when you teach it to the students, is there a hand motion? Yeah. Right? We actually have, Leah has the students in religious school bring peace down, right? Not enough for us to pray for peace in the heavens, but to bring, that is our task, right? So I see you and I hear you every time that song is sung, and I see our delicious students bringing peace down for them and for all of us, right? That is our task. That is one of our most sacred tasks, which is a fitting segue for us to move to the Mishaberach when we pray for healing and health and strength and patience and peace of body, peace of mind, peace of spirit. So we'll turn to page 371 as we continue to pray. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Yivarech et Aholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and bring peace down to those who are struggling. This evening, we're holding in our prayers Shana Esther Bat Rachel, Sarah Bat Avraham V'Sarah, Alan Skirker, Laura Braun, Stephen Brent, Rini Feingold, Irving Manis, Gabriel Berger, Brian Mansfield, Michael Shartok, Miriam Nemitz, Casey Zachman, Ali Goldsmith, Barbara Petro, Valerie Brownstein, Liz Steinberg, Stephen Brieger, Claire Cowing, Linda Champion, Allison Rohr Sekeli, Sarah Postelnik, Stanley Niskoda, Gwen Tucker, Steve Whitaker, Dennis Linsner, Yoka Adar Stam, Jamie Rosenzweig, Robin Trimble, Jean Harris, Shayna Pies, Yoel Eliyahu Ben Baruch Yosef Yehudit, Gary Mazinski, Beth and Jonah Soleimani, Howard Itkin, Leslie Whitney, and Yosef Ben Miriam. If there are other names that you would add to this list, or names better spoken aloud by you, please, as I look your way, would you share that or those names with us? Judy, go ahead.
Maddie Barthelmess.
And from home?
Ian Leonard.
Fred Davis, Aaron Johnson.
Ina Stanko. We were muted.
May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for wherever possible health to be restored and strength revived. May God send renewal of body and renewal of spirit as we join together in saying, Amen.
Mikol habracha imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mikol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And let us say Amen.
We pray that peace be brought down to each and to all who are struggling. I remember when I was in seminary, that was around the time that Robert Fulghum's, I think Fulghum is how you pronounce it. Do you remember that book, Everything I Ever Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten? That was when his books started to pop. So I want to read you just a very short passage from another book of his called It Was on Fire When I Lay Down on It that spoke to me. I hope it will speak to you too. And this is what he writes in quotes. Are there any questions? An offer that comes at the end of most college lectures and long meetings, said when an audience is not only overdosed with information, but when there is no time left anyhow. The gesture is supposed to indicate openness on the part of the speaker. I suppose, he writes, but in fact, there is little time left and there is a little silence in the response to the invitation, almost always. And he writes, and I usually ask the most important question of all. What is the meaning of life? You never know, somebody may have the answer, and I'd really hate to miss it. It's usually taken as a kind of absurdist move. People laugh and they nod, and then they gather up their stuff, and the meeting is dismissed on that ridiculous note. Once, and only once, I asked the question and got a serious answer, one that is still with me. I went to an institute dedicated to human understanding and peace on the Isle of Crete. And at the last session on the last morning of a 2-week seminar on Greek culture, led by intellectuals and experts in the field, Alexander Papaderos rose from his chair at the back of the room, and he walked to the front, where he stood in the bright Greek sunlight of an open window and looked out. We followed his gaze across the bay to the iron cross marking a German cemetery from World War II. He turned and made the ritual gesture, "Are there any questions?" And quiet quilted the room. These 2 weeks had generated enough questions for a lifetime, but now there was only silence. No questions, and he swept his eyes across the room. So I asked Dr. Papaderos, "What is the meaning of life?" And the usual laughter followed, and people stirred to go. And Papaderos held up his hand, and he stilled the room, and he looked at me for a long time, asking with his eyes if I was serious, and seeing from my eyes that I was. "I will answer your question." And taking his wallet out of his hip pocket, he fished into his leather billfold and brought out a very small, round mirror, about the size of a quarter. And what he said went something like this: "When I was a small child during the war, we were very poor, and we lived in a remote village. One day on the road, I found the broken pieces of a mirror. A German motorcycle had been wrecked in that place, and I tried to find all the pieces and put them together. But it was not possible, so I kept only the largest piece, this one. And by scratching it on a stone, I made it round. And I began to play with it as a toy and became fascinated by the fact that I could reflect light into dark places where the sun would never shine, in deep holes and crevices and dark closets. And it became a game for me to get light into the most inaccessible places I could find. And I kept that little mirror. And as I went about my growing up, I would take it out in idle moments and continue the challenge of the game. And as I became a man," he says, "I grew to understand that this was not just a child's game, but a metaphor for what I might do with my life. And I came to understand that I'm not the light or the source of light, but light, truth, understanding, knowledge is there. And it will only shine in many dark places if I reflect it. I am a fragment of a mirror whose whole design and shape I do not know. Nevertheless, with what I have, I can reflect light into the dark places of this world, into the black places in the hearts of so many, and change some things in some people. Perhaps others may see and do likewise. And this is what I am about. This is the meaning of my life." And then he took his small mirror and, holding it carefully, caught the bright rays of daylight streaming through the window and reflected them onto my face and onto my hands folded on my desk. It would be great if the sun was a little bit higher right now, right, to do that. Yeah. Much of what I experienced in the way of information about Greek culture and history that summer is gone from memory. But in the wallet of my mind, I carry a small, round mirror still. It's such a powerful story, isn't it? One that I needed to hear, and I thought that you might as well. A timely reminder on this specific day when the news tells us, I don't know if you saw this as well, that 99% of the world's population experienced sunlight at the same time today. Did you read this or see this? It's amazing, right? And despite the collective lament over our current state of affairs, it is remarkable to note that virtually all of the world's population experienced some form of daylight today, except for the Pacific Islands and the Australia kind of region, either daylight or twilight, exactly at the same time today. I think that's wild, just wild. Just imagine what it would look like, what it could be like if we all took out our small mirrors out of our pockets to reflect that light in that exact same moment today. Judaism has so much to say about light. If I asked, you could tell me any number of things. Light is the genesis, the creation of the world. The primary utterance of creation is, let there Let there be light, right? Let there be light. It's a separation from darkness. The Midrash asks, from what was this light actually created? And the answer we are taught is whispered. God was cloaked in a white shawl, and the light of its splendor shone from one end of the world to the other, tells us Genesis Rabbah, a commentary on the book of Genesis. And like from our earlier story, it is the reflection of light which separates out the darkness. Rabbi Steinsaltz taught us that the temple menorah, for all, right, we have one here, most synagogues have one in some place, for all its ornate and elaborate craftsmanship, did not serve any practical purpose. It was there as a symbol of the holiness of that place, its relation to light. The menorah was a sphere of sunlight which shone through the walls and curtains. It's little wonder that this meaning of the temple menorah was conceived by the Jewish people as the symbol par excellence of Jewish existence, as can be seen in Jewish ornaments from all periods in our time. Steinsaltz goes on to say that the same goes for our Sabbath and festival candles. Initially, the Sabbath candles were lit for a very prosaic reason, to make light for those who eat the Sabbath evening meal so that they would not spend the evening in utter darkness. The light of the candles has turned into the very symbol of Sabbath itself, despite what the outside world looks like, a sort of light of the 7 days of creation shining in a sanctified niche of time. People often say, be the light. Have you heard that saying? Be the light. It's a quote from the book of Matthew, one that is familiar and one which, despite not being from our texts, we can, I believe, appreciate its intention, but reflect the light is infinitely more Jewish, more apt, I think, and quite literally possible. Reflecting is something active, something we can do, something that can make a difference, no matter who we are, and almost always, no matter where we are. And as Tractate Shabbat from the Talmud explains, encouraging us, one person's candle is a light for many. There are infinite numbers of places where we can find references to light in our tradition, which begs the question, why has light been such a favorite symbol? Perhaps because light itself cannot be seen, and because we become most aware of its presence when it enables us to see other things. There are those who would add that similarly, we cannot see God, but we can become aware of God's presence when we see the beauty of the world, when we experience love and goodness of our fellow human beings. Light and the reflecting of that light can forever change us. Light also serves as a metaphor for Torah, for mitzvot, for the commandments, and the human soul, as the Proverbs teach from chapter 6. A mitzvah is a candle, and the Torah is light. And from Proverbs 20, a candle of God is the soul of man. The mystical commentator Sfat Emet explains that performing a mitzvah, a commandment, is like lighting an internal, I almost said eternal, right? An internal candle, although it's good both ways, right? An internal candle, and he writes, doing a mitzvah is like lighting a candle before God. It is preparing a place where God's glorious presence can dwell. By means of this, you enliven your soul and the candle at the same time. The more light a person brings about in the physical darkness through doing these mitzvot, the more that one will enlighten one's soul from light above. The mitzvot, the commandments, the things that we ought to do, become spiritual tools for opening our souls to God's light and spreading that light into the world around us, writes Lauren Birkin. So as we move through these times, fraught as they are, I think it is a good teaching for us to strive to be like that fragment of the mirror through the deeds that we choose to do, the deeds that we must do, and reflect light into the dark places of this world, into the black places of the hearts of so many, and change some things in some people. And perhaps others may see and do likewise. We can only pray. So let us aspire to reflect the light. And we say, Ken Yehi Ratzon, let that be God's will. We'll continue now as we turn to our concluding prayers, the Aleinu, on page 586, and for which we will invite you, please, again in body or in spirit, to rise. Page 586 for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו בהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We pause now to think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. During the period of Shloshim, these last 30 days, we are mourning the loss of George O'Krent, husband of Patricia Goodwin, Phyllis Magnani, aunt of Charlie Schachter and of Joyce, Richard Rosenblum, father of Karen Rosenblum. We are mourning those lost in Highland Park, Jackie Sundheim, Nicholas Toledo Zaragoza, Irina McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, Catherine Goldstein, Stephen Strauss, and Eduardo Uvaldo. This marks a yahrzeit, an anniversary of passing for Solomon Benzman, Francis Blankhoff, Molly Bobroff, Ralph Bookbinder, Sarah Buchholz, Morton Brodsky, Earl L. Chapin, Lola Cohn, Lola Citron, Rachel Flamholtz, Larry Frankel, Eleanor Goldman, Kenneth Green, Sonia Cantor Handros, Philip Hewitt, Gloria Horwitz, Alexander Hutkoff, Gerald Martin Kahn, Arthur Kaufman, Zelda Coleman, Ella Kukova, Ida Levin Kushner, Sam Lekin, Mildred Rivera, Harriet Fogel Lewis, Alfred Litt, Doris T. Locke, Faye Maxick, Aurel Mercier, Ruth Peck, Jocelyn Bernstein Phillips, Lois Cohn, Rockmaker, Nicholas Rousseau, Ruth Salison, Helen Schiffman, Arthur Schiller, Victor Silver, Harry Valinsky, and Hans D. von Perlstein. If there are other names that ought to be added to either list, or names better spoken aloud by you, please share them as I look your way.
Father Sam.
And from home,
Mr. Amico,
Zichrona Livracha, May each of their memories be for a blessing as we turn to page 598 to recite the Mourner's Kaddish together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah, ve'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam umei umaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav. Huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace down to us, to all who mourn, to all Israel, as we join together in saying, amen, amen. Please be seated, please be seated. We'll conclude this evening with some brief announcements and our closing song. We want to first of all thank Leah Sada Sherman. We thank you so much for always raising us up in song and spirit and helping us bring down that which most needs to be in this space and in all of our spaces. We thank you so much, so much. We want to thank Sharon Silvio for being our board greeter tonight and hope that you'll join us in the social hall just behind for a quick bite of something sweet to keep the sweetness of Shabbat with you and to meet and greet one another, that you'll have the same opportunity to do that from wherever you are joining us as well. Next Friday night, we have our Pride Shabbat service at 6 p.m. with the voice ensemble, the Teddy Bears, led by Dennis Rosenbaum and the Gay Men's Chorus. We are so pleased that they can be with us. We were just talking about it before services as well. Join us, please, on Friday night. And then right after that, at 7 p.m., we have Open Tent Shabbat, where you can bring a picnic dinner to the JCC and join together all the community, all the community who wants to come together at 7 p.m. at the JCC for a communal kind of bring your own dinner, an opportunity to look at Shemitah, what it means to pause and during this time in this season. That's a wonderful opportunity, one now and then another one in August. And the next Saturday morning is the Pride Parade at 12 p.m. where Temple Sinai, we are always proud to be a part of that. We have a designated spot. You can find out where we are, the number where we are, and we hope that you will join us at Pride Shabbat next week downtown where we gather. And please, let us know. We've got t-shirts this year. We've got Pride t-shirts for Temple Sinai. If you would like to make an $18 donation and purchase a Pride t-shirt, you can contact the office to get yours as well. Mark the dates. We finally have the reboot of our Israel trip from 2 years ago, and then again from last year that got kind of kicked down the road because of that virus. So we have light shining on the trip again, February 26th to March 8th. For more information, keep your eyes open on the website as well. That is coming also. Step by step, there's still an opportunity to contribute to Step by Step and to order a paver for outside, to celebrate, to commemorate any occasions. There's information. The deadline has been extended to August 12th, and you can leave a lasting, beautiful legacy with the Step by Step project that is here as well. So many places that need our attention. I say it every week, but it needs to be said every week. Donations that are still needed for Buffalo, for Ukraine, for Uvalde, Texas, now for for Illinois. There are so many places for the fight against anti-Semitism. So many places. You can food link here and the Brighton food cupboard. So many places that need your attention, your signature, your contributions, however you best can. All of that can be found on our website as well. And I think that is it for me, unless you have anything that I have missed from the community that we should know about, or any celebrations or noteworthy news that we should know about. Okay, then we will make motzi together. Join us, please, as we give thanks for that which nourishes and sustains us. Join us, please.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Table. And right after Leah, this is always the trickiest part, right? Chew and sing, chew and sing. Our closing song, right? Our closing song is on page 643, Havana Shira.
And I'll need your help with this. There's some echo parts where I'm going to say, come let us sing, and you'll echo back to me that same thing. Havana Shira, Havana Shira, Havana Shira, let us sing. Havana Shira, Havana Shira, Havana Shira, let us sing. Come let us sing. Come let us sing. Come let us sing together. Havana Shira. Come let us sing. Come let us sing. Come let us sing. Havana Shira. Don't worry, you have another chance. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Let us sing. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Let us sing. Come let us sing. Come let us sing. Come let us sing. Havana Shira. Come let us sing. Come let us sing. Come let us sing. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Let us sing.
We wish you a good and a peaceful and a healthy Shabbat and many opportunities to reflect the light. Join us, please, as we gather for an oneg in the social hall, and we wish you a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.